What's up everyone, David here, and I'm super glad again today we are doing another collaboration video for the channel. You might have seen the first part, what got us into Shin Megami Tensei. We had a bunch of cool Megaten Content Creators come onto the video to give their thoughts on what got them into Shin Megami Tensei and what is their favorite game. Well, you asked for it, we have a part 2. I took you guys a suggestion of who you wanted to see, and I think you guys will like the video. Of course, you already know my story, so you won't hear it again this time. I will link the video to the first part right here, so you can click on this to see what those awesome content creators had to say. And for this video, we have another bunch of cool content creators that you guys can check out in the description below. I'll have the links to everyone's channels so you can check them out. I would definitely recommend all of them. And I hope you guys will like what they had to say.
What's up guys, Bao here. I've been a big fan of Persona and SMT as a whole for about 13 years now, and my introduction to the series, like many others, was Persona 3. I stumbled upon the game by accident via YouTube gameplay clips and was instantly intrigued. I happened to find a copy at GameStop one day and had to take it home. I instantly fell in love and couldn't put it down. I enjoyed everything from the music to the story, but I think where Persona 3 really hooked me was that it was the first RPG I played set in our modern world. Instead of a fantasy setting, it was taking place in a city that I could actually see myself being a part of, which of course helped my immersion. After beating Persona 3, I did some research and found out it was part of a bigger series of games, of course called SMT or Megaten. And from there, I played Devil Survivor, Digital Devil Saga, Nocturne, pretty much anything with Shin Megami Tensei in the title I could get my hands on. Fast forward over a decade later, and now it's one of my favorite series I hold very dear to me. If I had to give you my favorite SMT game, it would probably have to be Persona 3 or Persona 5. Persona 3 being of course where I fell in love with SMT, and Persona 5 just being a phenomenal game on its own. But if we're talking outside Persona, I think I'd have to give the honor of my favorite game to the first Devil Survivor. I love the insane replayability, the fact your actions have real consequences, and it's always a treat seeing how the characters react differently to being stuck in a lockdown with demons. And not to mention the Chaos ending is a contender for my favorite ending in any game. Just talking about it makes me want to do another playthrough now. To me, that's a sign of a special experience.
Marvelous hello there folks, Strain42 here, and technically my introduction to Megami Tensei was about 20 years ago. A friend of mine had Eternal Punishment for the PS1, and I remember he let me play a little bit of it. I even remember what part of the game it was. It was the TV station dungeon where you take Eriko's route. I remember because he was currently stuck on it, so all I did was just run around and I did some fights. I really don't count that though, as it was just kind of like a single afternoon. The game that I actually owe for getting me into Megaten is a non-Megaten game that I bought on a whim from a bargain bin for like $6. And that game was Robopon 2 Ring version for the Game Boy Advance, a Hudson RPG that Atlas USA published in 2002. I absolutely fell in love with this game. It was cute, it was charming, it was funny. And while it wasn't the first Atlas game I'd ever played, it is the one I give credit to for making me kind of like, you know, keep an eye out for the Atlas name on game boxes. So in 2003, I would have been about 14 at the time, I stumbled into a local game shop in Hawaii called Toys and Joys, and a game they had on display caught my eye, Demikid's Light version. The box was covered with cute monster designs, with Jack Frost especially standing out to me. Even before I knew what Megaten was, I loved Jack Frost, which I guess is why he's such a good mascot. But sure enough, it was the Atlas name on the box that made me decide to pick it up. I played it, I loved it. I remember the first time I played it was we went out to dinner, like as soon as I bought it, we went to get Italian food. I don't know why that's like the one thing I remember, but I remember literally the first time I played this game was while waiting for my Italian food to show up. I played it, loved it. Few weeks, I went back for Demikid's Dark version. I had to get that one as well, and I loved that one too. And then a few years later, when I was living in Japan, I picked up Devil Summoner Raido Kuzunoha versus the Soulless Army, because that box just drew me in. That was like, you're a detective, it's 1920s Tokyo, use your demons to solve cases, and I was like, everything about this appeals to me. So I bought that and I started playing that. No, I didn't buy it. I got it for Christmas. I got it for Christmas that year. But I recognized a few of the demons in that game as demons I'd seen in Demikids. I think it was like, you know, Jack Frost and Mokoi was one that I recognized. So I realized that day that there was a much bigger franchise to all of this, and there were all these connected games. A good friend of mine at the time actually introduced me to Digital Devil Saga, because he saw me playing Rtyuiope, and he was like, oh hey, these are the same people who did that game, and I was like, oh, well, I want to play that too. And yeah, pretty much from that moment onward, I was a fan of all things Megaten. I actually learned about Persona 3 from a magazine called Girls of Gaming Volume 4 that featured Yukari, and I bought that game at launch, on just impulse from that alone, not even noticing it was Megaten until after I'd started playing, much like with Rtyuiope. I moved back to the States about a week before Fest launched in English, and I've bought every game in the franchise since then. So yeah, I've been a fan since, technically since 2003. Now, as far as my favorite game in the franchise, that is definitely a harder one. I have so much love and nostalgia for Raido Kuzunoha versus the Soulless Army. I really, really like Devil Survivor Overclocked, but if I had to pick a single solitary favorite, I've gotta go with Persona 3 FES. It took a game that could have already been my contender for favorite, and it just made it even better. I've probably put more time into that one than any other game in the franchise, and even replaying it again less than a year ago, I still loved every minute of it. Persona 3 FES is just an amazing game, and I have no quarrels about calling it my favorite.
Hello, Zubi's Gameroom here, and I was invited to talk about why I like Shin Megami Tensei, or how I got into Shin Megami Tensei and what my favorite game is. So I got into Shin Megami Tensei first by playing Persona 3 Portable. My husband recommended that game to me, although he never finished it. He said that it was a good RPG and I was looking for RPGs to play on the PSP, so I played it. I thought it was okay. I didn't enjoy it, like I do now with Shin Megami Tensei games, but I thought it was good. And, by researching and going online, looking for other games similar to Persona, Shin Megami Tensei popped up. I knew that Shin Megami Tensei was related to Persona, but I never played any of them, and I had never played any of them, and it looked interesting, very dark and very different from Persona, so I decided to give it a go when I got the 3DS. So the first game I played from the series was Shin Megami Tensei 4. Now, I love that game, but it was so hard the first time I played it because I had never played Shin Megami Tensei games before. I got stuck at the first boss and I had to put it down for a month before I could, finish and really enjoy the game as a whole. My favorite Shin Megami Tensei game though, I don't know which one. I think I would have to choose between Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey. Either the remake or the original. I do prefer the art style on the original game, but they did add more stuff on the remake, so yeah. I really, really love the story on Strange Journey. I feel like I don't like sci-fi-esque stories, but that had a mix of the usual Shin Megami Tensei, chaos law, all that, along with a little bit of sci-fi where you had to explore unknown grounds and discover new areas and stuff. And so yeah, I thought that was very, very interesting. Also, it had lots of great characters. Jimenez, I miss you. But yeah, that's how I got into Shin Megami Tensei, and I can't choose between Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Strange Journey, but those are my favorite Shin Megami Tensei games. So yeah, that's it from me.
Hello everyone, it is Ira Toopey from Rtyuiope's Gameroom here on DavidCast's channel, and he wanted me to answer a few questions for you guys about what my favorite Megami Tensei game is and what got me into the series. But first, let me go over what actually got me into the series. What my first game was actually Persona 2 Eternal Punishment way back in the day. All my friends had brought over like JRPGs like Final Fantasy and stuff, and me being the silly kid that I was, I wanted to have my own game to show them because of some childish, jealousy or whatever. So I went to an old forbidden store, you may remember, called CD Trade Post, and I found a copy of Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, which I had since sold a long time ago because I didn't understand the value of these things. And I eventually got a new copy, as you can see here, but I'd completely forgotten about the series since then until about 2012 or something, when my cousin Jill introduced me to Persona 4, and it reinvigorated my interest in the series, and I fell in love with it immediately. And since then, I've just been playing them all, going through all the games, and I've really fallen in love with the type of, punk aesthetic that Megami Tensei is known for. As you can tell, it fits me pretty well, and that's why I kind of fallen in love with it. And after playing so many games, the one game that really grabbed my attention and made me go all the way in was, of course, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne, which I know is a generic answer. Everyone says that this is their favorite game, but really it's the the gothic type art style and the amazing world and the combat and the story and music and everything combined is just the perfect game. In fact, Nocturne is my #1 favorite game of all time, and I just love it so much. And since then, the series has kind of taken over my life a little bit, but that's okay. And I hope there's many more years to come for this series and everything. And yeah, thank you for inviting me on the channel and letting me have a moment to speak. And you have a good one.
Hello, fellow Megatenists. Today I want to tell you guys a very special story. Today I want to tell you guys how I got into Shin Megami Tensei. The story begins when I was still a teenager in 2005. So I was about in 10th grade, and my friend gave me a copy of this game. He said, "Hey, you like Pokemon and you like dark things?" This is the time when I was listening to My Chemical Romance and Linkin Park. By the way, they were like, "You like dark things? You like Pokemon? This thing is basically Demon Pokemon." And he gave me his copy. This copy is the copy that I was given. So it's special to me because this is my first ever Megaten game. I got it. I started playing it that year. So I played it, around October or November of 2015. I got stuck on Black Frost fight, which I learned is an optional fight, and I rage quit, and I didn't play it again until later on, much later, about 6 months or so later. Then I beat the game. This was at a time where I didn't have any community help, so I didn't have that, didn't have money for a strategy guide. I just had to figure it out on my own, and because of that, I've never really considered Nocturne difficult. I've just figured that it's kind of just a fun game. I really have a lot of nostalgic memories with this. It's probably why I associate Black Frost with good things, because even though it made me stuck, still beat it. From then on out, I basically just became interested. I started buying the games as they released: Digital Devil Saga, Persona 3, Persona 4, and then I ended up getting this gigantic collection as a result, because that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to be able to purchase these things because I really loved the style, I love the art, music, gameplay. Specifically, Kaneko was my favorite and always will be for Megaten art. Meguro was my favorite at the time until I got into the older games, and then at some point I just became, part of different communities, whether it's the Atlas forums or digital or DDSnet. And then eventually on Facebook with Shin Megami Tensei Network. Started doing my own podcast with Nyarly. That fell through, that eventually became the Did You Know Tensei guy. And that's how I got here today. Now the next question is what my favorite Megaten game is and why. There's two answers to that. So my main favorite game for the Megami Tensei franchise is Strange Journey. Not Strange Journey Redux, which I have here. Strange Journey. Strange Journey has always been my favorite due to the sci-fi story. It reminds me of The Thing, one of my favorite movies of all time. It's got a mature adult cast, which doesn't happen often in Megaten. And not only is the plot very well told, but the characters feel believable, the music is great, the gameplay is pretty tough, and I really, really like retrofuturism, and the Demonica has always been one of my favorite designs Kaneko has ever put together. So the version I have is actually the collector's edition, so it has the soundtrack, and there's the regular version, and this here. And like I said, I really love Strange Journey, so I actually have, so on top of this collector's edition, I have a sealed one, and then I have another one. Oh, actually, they're both sealed. I just really love Strange Journey. I even have extra copies of Redux. I have 3 of Redux in America, and then I have 1 collector's edition, which is my favorite collector's edition that I've owned thus far. Now, my other favorite game of all time for Shin Megami Tensei is Jack Bros. Jack Bros is a very fun game to me because it only takes 1 hour to beat. So when I was originally getting into playing the games, I quickly found that playing Jack Bros was kind of like a palate cleanser, and I could play this game, beat it in about an hour, and then I could get into the next Megaten game without feeling like I'm getting overwhelmed with all these crazy things. It's a hard game too, so I would say that it definitely takes skill, especially the last dungeon, which is about 60 floors. Basically, it's like a twin stick shooter, and you just have to get through these mazes that are time based. You go down to each floor, and you can pick between Jack, Pyro, or Jack the Ripper. And if you beat the game, you unlock Pixie, and Pixie is the most OP character, but I prefer to use Jack the Ripper, or Jack Skeleton as he's called in the initial release. One of the things that I really love about Jack Bros in particular is the American box art. It's done by an artist named Augie Pagan, who I've always very much liked. And all in all, this is just one of my favorite games. It's also one of the most expensive things I own in my collection. I own both this version and the Japanese version. So yeah, that's my favorite game and how I got into Megaten. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the people's commentary on how they got into it and what their favorite games are. Thanks for having me, and goodbye, fellow Megatenists.
Hello everyone, my name is SonicKick. I've been a YouTube content creator for 5 years. I mostly focus on Sega and indie games. And of course, I happen to be a huge fan of Megaten. No, not just Persona, I mean Megaten. So, how did I get into Megaten? Well, it all started with Game Grumps, surprisingly. Yeah, this scene in particular.
You know what? Let's shake on it.
John and Aaron win! They realize friendship's more important!
I used to jokingly watch that scene because I honestly thought in high school and college I was a runner, and during long runs at night, there was a CVS pharmacy close to my house. And so I'd go in, use my own cash to buy an Amazon gift card, and finish the run back home. I did this a few times throughout high school. Year was the best year with them, because the faculty and staff were honestly absolute idiots. And they didn't think that we figured out that the admin password was lions. Everyone figured this out on the first day, and we could put whatever programs we wanted on the machines. And by that point, they didn't care, so I installed PSP, Game Boy, and SNES emulators on the tablet. I had to use a touchscreen, but hey, I got to play games like Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, and my first Shin Megami Tensei game. Yeah, the first one. I played the English patch and I was really enjoying it. However, I was enjoying it a bit too much, as I decided to take a day off in history class when the teacher wasn't there and play Shin Megami Tensei 1 the entire period. And then days later, all the stuff we covered on that exact day were going to be on the next test. And this wasn't a test with just multiple choice answers. No, every single question was an essay. I got a 15 on that test. Yeah, Megaten almost made me fail history class. Now going forward, I did listen in history, and the next test I was able to ace it, and I was able to drop that 15 off my report card, resulting in a 93 for the semester since I improved a ton. So when your teachers are talking about the French Revolution, you better listen in because holy shit, that was an insane time period. As the hype for Persona 5 kept continuing, with it getting pushed back over and over and over again. I mean, remember winter 2014? I was awake till 6 a.m. for that reveal. But then again, I would eventually graduate high school, go to college, and since Pokemon Sun and Moon were coming out, I wanted to try to get back into Pokemon. Now, one of my track buddies was super nice enough to give me his 3DS. And then, that's where I played my favorite Megaten title. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is an incredible game. While the game could be harder, I love its world building, its characters, the story, and of course the soundtrack. You go from being in a literal bubble in Mikado, then go into the depths of Naruku, encounter demons, go into Tokyo, and there you'll meet the different factions and people of Tokyo. You'll see their worldviews, and how slowly the game transitions from not being about the characters, but focuses on the world and how everyone wants to shape it. It's some real deep shit, and the concepts of law and chaos melt together and how much conviction people, angels, and demons can have to fight for what they believe in. It also has the best soundtrack in the series, with its own feel, and oh my god, the soundtrack's so good. I genuinely do not care what anyone says. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is my favorite title in the series. Too bad Apocalypse is a piece of shit.
A big thank you to everyone who participated for this video. It was a blast to make and I hope that you guys liked it. Again, the link to everyone's channel is in the description and I strongly advise all of you guys to check them out since they are amazing. Thank you for watching.